Not nobody, not ever. Not even your own mama.
That doesn't mean that Uncle G did it.
Shawn, I was running shit then. Me, Kanan. Ghost and Tommy kept coming around talking about some shit I wasn't down with. So he got rid of me by sending me to prison. 10 years locked up, I thought about killing you 100 different ways. Put a gun in your mouth and watch your brains hit the walls in your club. I made you watch me fuck Tosh and pushed you off the roof of your bougie ass crib.
Alright, y'all looking at the title, y'all looking at the thumbnail. Now, before I even get started on today's video, y'all already know the deal. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, get on in here. We almost close to 5K, what y'all doing? Make sure you subscribe. Now, it's gonna be quite a while. I say like maybe a couple of more weeks until we actually get Breeze and Kanan season 3. And we're gonna be get to seeing like, I guess like the downfall and the descent between Kanan and Raquel, and was gonna, I guess, lead to like their ultimate squabble, right? Now, in the future, we do know that it's gonna be Kanan and Breeze that's actually gonna take over the streets, and Raquel is nowhere to be seen, right? And I had this thought where, you know, where Kanan was pissed off about what Ghost actually did, how Ghost betrayed him, right? And then he actually killed Breeze when the man was basically in his home watching Jeopardy, and you know, at the time, Ghost had his own plans, right? But it had me thinking, out of everything that we've seen so far in, like, Power, right? When it comes down to, like, manipulation and people using other people to, like, further their own goals and gains, right? Wouldn't you think it would have actually made more sense for Raquel to get in touch with a young James St. Patrick and actually gave him the idea to turn on Kanan in the first place? Because keep in mind, James St. Patrick, he wanted to like follow his father's footsteps to having like a nightclub, right? And remember, he killed Breeze. So wouldn't you think that he could have actually killed Kanan as well, unless Raquel told him not to do it? Because keep in mind, whatever like sort of drama that's going on between, you know, Raquel and Kanan, right? You would think that out of everything that happened between them and will happen further in the story between them, right? Like the blood feud, which we can probably see at this point, right? She's like, Kanan is still her son. So I don't think it would have been like, okay, she probably wanted him dead or anything. Now, again, it could still happen, though. I'm just saying, you know, that could probably still happen. But despite everything, Kanan is still her son. So wouldn't you think that instead of, you know, Ghost actually killing Kanan, what if she was the one to have told Ghost not to kill him, but to send him to prison, right? Because like I said before, it would have not made sense for him to just not kill Breeze, and you know, obviously Kanan was pissed about it, so you would think that there was something, you know, going on back then, like, okay, you killed my guy, right? And Kanan would have been very wary of Ghost, but to be like, well, if he killed Breeze, I should be next, right? And it would kind of like make you think about those types of things, right? But I'm thinking, if Raquel is actually still alive into this future or whatever, then it would probably make sense for Raquel to have gotten close to Ghost and maybe gave him the idea of maybe, you know, you send Kanan away, right? And then that was probably like her revenge to, like, you know, despite I guess what Kanan maybe done to her, like betrayed her or whatever things that he have done to her in the future of raising Kanan, that maybe that was like her last, you know, fuck you to Kanan, like this is what I had done to you. Because when you look at like Power Book 2 Ghosts, and you look at season 2 where Mecca was basically, you know, manipulating Kane to a degree for him to not only get back with his family, but he was also trying to get in with Monet, but he was using Kane to do all of that, right? And then you look at how when Kanan was using Tariq to get back at Ghost, which ultimately, it technically, you know, he won at the point, because it was just like Kanan's manipulations worked on Tariq and got Tariq in a spiral mess in the first place, right? And you would think that who was the one to have maybe potentially had some sort of manipulation over a young James St. Patrick besides Kanan, right? But I wouldn't say like Kanan was doing any manipulation. It was more like him teaching, you know, Ghost and Tommy the game. But you would think that if there was any other sort of like manipulation, maybe Raquel had something to do with it, and maybe furthering like a young James St. Patrick's decision on wanting to like get out of the game. Because even though, yeah, he had plans to like taking over like the nightclub, right? And then I guess during the time when Power started up, when he was actually working with Lobos, which Lobos, stated that it was actually 6 months when he started working with Lobos. But between the times when he was working with Lobos and him having a nightclub, and then I guess the 10 years Kanan spent in prison, right? All of that has to align with maybe Raquel in some sort of degree, because let's just say, like, if she isn't dead, right? Then we would have to assume that she was probably like pulling some moves that maybe Kanan wasn't fully aware of, because maybe in the story of Raising Kanan, Kanan probably thought that he's handled the whole Raquel problem. He's taken her business away. He gotten everything from her, and she has nothing. So I'm thinking that maybe, she probably was doing something like, okay, if Kanan wants to do all this, then I'm going to have somebody that's close to him destroy him. Which she probably scouted out like James St. Patrick, and she used him. That's what I'm like, that's what I'm really thinking about, because I'm like, you could say like James St. Patrick, he was smart and all, and he thought of this, but I mean, I'm still leaning on like Raquel probably has some sort of small influence to further like push the idea of, well, instead of working for Kanan, maybe you should do things on your own, right? Now, granted, in the story of like Raising Kanan, I mean, if you go back into my video that I made about the timeline, like the Power timeline of how everything would kind of like should align, right? During this time, well, I guess a little after, or no, around the time of Raising Kanan, I should say, Kanan's supposed to meet like a new love interest, right? And then that's when baby Shawn is born, right? And you would think that out of everything that happened, Raquel should have at least been able to have met the baby, or to have at least seen like baby Shawn, because in the story, obviously, yeah, Raquel was never mentioned, right? But you would think that Shawn could have maybe spent some time with his grandma, like Grandma Rock, right? Because we know that he's been with his mom, and we do know that Ghost was actually raising him and teaching him not to follow in the life of what Kanan in the streets. Like he taught him not to do that. He told him like the opposite. So you would think that maybe Raquel could have maybe seen baby Shawn, right? Or maybe Kanan could have done something to be like, well, you're seeing him, but you're not going to raise him or anything because after what you did to me. So maybe, Kanan kept Shawn away during the time. I'm saying like during the time, because it has to make sense for her to like still be around when, Kanan has like his first child, right? It only has to make sense, because it would be kind of crazy if, let's just say like she dies and she never gets to see Shawn and she never gets to know about Kanan's first child, right? I mean, again, all of that could still happen, but I'm just like, if you're adding up the timeline and you're adding up the story, it would have to make sense for her to know about, like, okay, Kanan has a kid now and she wants to be there, essentially. But there's so much bad blood between them that might not happen, right? Because of everything that's potentially that's going to go down in this season and then seasons to come, right? So that's what I was kind of like thinking about, like between like, Ghost, Kanan, and definitely Raquel. That's what I was kind of like thinking about, because I'm like, come on now. It only has to make sense for her to like maybe still be around. But then again, I could be completely wrong, right? And Raquel could like definitely be dead. Like Kanan probably just like, you know what? I'm just gonna like kill you right here and now, because who knows, right? Because seeing how Kanan was able to easily kill Jukebox and to kill his own son, you would probably have to think the trauma and the mental damage that Raquel has done to Kanan. Raquel probably was the first family member he ever killed, was probably her, right? And she's probably not alive. Or if he failed to kill her and he shot her and maybe paralyzed her, and Raquel is maybe like forced to be in the wheelchair for the rest of her life, it would only make sense that, okay, she can't get around as much, but maybe whoever that was still loyal to like Raquel during those times, like during like the 90s, maybe she could have had like sent a word out to maybe a James St. Patrick, a young James St. Patrick, right? Told him to keep things under wraps, keep things a secret, don't tell Kanan anything, right? And then slowly started to work on him. That's what I'm kind of thinking about, and it would make sense for Raquel to like slowly start to work on like a young James St. Patrick, for him to like do things differently, right? Which I'm thinking, right? And it would probably make sense if that was to be the case, because it would be like a generational thing, because Raquel was working on a young James St. Patrick, and then Kanan was working on a Tariq, right? So it would be like the total opposite, but it would have been for like different reasons. Well, same reason. It would technically be almost like the same reason, right? But the outcome of it would have just been a little bit different, where Kanan went to prison for, I guess, 10 years, and then Tariq killed Ghost, right? So that's what I'm kind of like leaning on to, and I think it would actually make more sense for Raquel to actually put more of an idea and an influence onto like a young James St. Patrick to do these things. Now, in the span of everything, I would have liked it, the idea of James St. Patrick, maybe he was the one to have been, I don't know, he's still constantly, selling drugs and then building up his little empire, and he was giving maybe Raquel money on the side or anything. Because keep in mind, we don't know half of the things that James St. Patrick did off screen. We've only heard or seen a couple of things in Power Book 2 Ghost of, like he did the whole, he was trying to get Yaz to have like a new family in case like the family gets wiped out. He had a contingency plan there. So again, we don't even know if maybe he had a little money slipped over to Raquel on the side, right? Maybe he was doing these little things for her. We don't even know what he actually could have been doing. Potentially, if Raquel is still alive, that maybe he was like helping her out. But yeah, we just gonna have to like wait and see on what of like the actual plans on what Kanan, Raquel, and potentially Ghost actually done between the spanning years of when Kanan and Raquel were still beefing, to the point when Kanan and Breeze took over the streets, and then potentially when Ghost actually killed Breeze and sent Kanan to prison, right? Either it was on his own volition or Raquel had something to do with it, right? Like, remember when Ghost had his will, when he sent his that letter to Tariq, he was just like, I know you would end up in prison or end up in jail because you're not smart like me. So again, we're just gonna have to like wait and see on these little tidbits and all. But comment down below on what you guys think, and like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch you all in the next one.